Hello, this is Terry from Fabric Junction, and today I'm going to show you how to do a stepping stones block that we made into a simple table topper. It's a wonderful way to take a block that you really like and make it as large as you can or large as you want and convert it into something simple like a table topper, or you can make it very small for like a pot holder. But today we're doing stepping stone. And to do a block of this size, we separate it out into sections. And we have this section with the 4-patch and the corners. And the other section has the flying geese. So for expediency, I've already done 3 of my blocks. But I will show you how we did each section, beginning with the 4-patch and a cornerstone border on it. I lay out my pieces where they go, and I stack all my pieces when I'm doing several blocks, so I'd have a stack of the fabrics. So now I can see what I want to sew and how I want to do it. So first I'm going to put the 4-patch together. And I would actually do all my 4 patches at one time. Once I have my 4 patches sewn in that, I know I need to sew the cornerstone to the side. So I'd go through and I'd sew all of those. I come back and I press. And the rule of thumb, of course, is press to the dark or the less bulky, because sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. I've got one going each way here. I want to press to the dark so that these will line up. I kept these hooked together because I know they're going to be sewn to each other. So to make sure I'm still headed down the right way, I will put my pieces kind of back in their position and go, yes, I am putting it together correctly. Because there's many times I have turned pieces the wrong way. So a quick press on this one. Double check that I have my black running the right way, so I want to sew on the side. And this one, if I press to the dark, that's where the bulk is. So this one will be pressed to the light. And then line it up. Go to my 2. So with that, I now have my little corner of my blocks done, and I'll be ready to work on the flying geese. So again, I lay out my pieces in the order that I want to work with them, and I'm doing flying geese, so I set those to each side. So I know those are the ones that go with this rectangle, these are the ones that go with this, and this one doesn't get any. So to start my geese, I put the square on top of the rectangle. I use my folded corner clipper and I trim. What this does for me is I don't have to draw a line on every one of my squares to show where to sew. I've got it clipped. I know this is my seam allowance, so I can go straight to the machine and sew. And pop the thread out of the needle. There we go. Since I know I have a couple of different geese to do, I'll start this one also, because anytime I can do chain piecing, I do. Now with the geese, I press, oh, there we go, and on these, I press so that that will go to the outside. It creates less bulk at the intersection when you're done. So now I need to do the other side. I line up my square, and they need to overlap, because that's your seam allowance. I cut, I make sure that here's the bottom of my goose. I know this is the angle because I want that seam allowance. I cut that and I take it to the machine again and sew. And the same with my other one. Again, press. Set it. Turn it to make sure that my goose heading the direction I want. Lay my corner clipper. Shift a little bit here. There we go. Cut and sew. Now there's many techniques to making your geese. This just happens to be one. So now when I press, you'll see on the back side, I've opened it up and you can see where the seams have crossed. Which is nice to see when you have to sew on that. So now I go back, I lay my pieces and go, okay, that is the order of my pieces. So I take one and I start sewing them together. Since I'm not going to cross that seam, I don't run and press right away. Now the important one is this one, because we don't want to cut off our point. And the easiest way to do that is to sew it so we can see that intersection. And you want to cross that intersection. So even if your seam allowance is a little bit big or a little bit small, it's important that we cross right there at that point so we don't cut off the tip of our goose or we don't leave it too wide. So to do that, most of the time you'll be able to see that intersection. Sometimes you don't, just in the nature of that block. Okay, we'll see how close I came on whether or not I cut off that little tip or not. Actually, not bad. It doesn't look like I clipped him. Okay, press. And now we're ready to assemble our big stepping stones block. So with the assembly, I do the same thing as we did before. I take all my sections and I lay them out in the order that they're used. So I know these are my corners, and I know I need the black going inward. There's my center square. And then on my geese, I need to remind that the black goes to the inside. So I wanted to keep turning, make sure that I have the black going towards the inside. So there is my block. Now when I sew a block, now we're back to basically 9 squares. So if you think of it as a 9 patch, I take this one and I roll it over to the left and I sew. And there's one seam to match up, and it's okay that if the one underneath is tight, you can give it a little ease, or the one on the top, but you want to match those seams up. If it's easier for you to pin, go ahead and pin. But your feed dogs will feed just a hair faster sometimes. So that's the reason sometimes you need to ease one to the other. Okay, on this particular one, I'm not going to be able to see my X from the top because of the technique I use to put my blocks together. But I check it, and I feel, and you can mark it and feel it. So I go very careful to make sure I get to that right spot. And then I grab my next 2, line up my seam. And what I have done is I have sewn these in the order. So now I'm going to open them up and go, yep, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. So I need to put on the next block. So I'll start, I leave those sewn together because I know when I come back I'm going to sew the other direction and they're in the correct order. So I don't have to rethink it over and over and over. So I pick up my next piece, I line it up, I take my next one, I'm going to move those over so I don't get them mixed up. I take my next one and I open it up, and I know this is my center, so I need the opposite side. This time I'll be able to see my point on my flying goose. And the same here, I open it up and I make sure my black is matched with black because I know that's where it has to go. And we're almost done with our beautiful block. Now you can open it up and double check. All your pieces are still where you want them. And the last one is just fold it over. And then I just start matching wherever there's a seam allowance that wants to match up. I don't worry about this one because it's not going to match anything, but this one here matches. So I just start there and I match up that seam allowance. Once I have that, I move to the next one and I match up the next one. Oh. Then I go down to the next one, and this time I have a little X that I need to cross, so I watch for that X. One more seam allowance to match up, and then to the end. And I grab the other side, and I'll do the same thing, just slowly matching up each seam allowance. And like I said, if you're more comfortable pinning your seam allowances, that's okay too. So go back to the ironing board and press, but there is your big block. Now this will be great if you want to make a big quilt. About 12 of these blocks will make a double or a queen. 20 of them will make a king, or just make the lovely table topper. With this table topper, we did finish it with a technique that's called binding with a piping. And check out our video to show you how to use that particular technique. But have fun making your stepping stones block. Thank you for watching.